Do you read me over?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me over?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some! Hurrah! What's going on, everybody? My name is Pacho Correa, United States Marine Corps, Chief Warrant Officer 3. Hurrah! Hey, welcome to the Field Op. This is a great show. We're looking forward. It's taken a long, long time to get here. It's been a dream of mine for quite some time, but today is the day, everybody, and I'm glad that you joined. And I hope that you subscribe, you like and share, pass it on to everybody else because we have this is a great product that we're going to bring it to everybody. So, with that being said, let's dig that right into it. So, let me tell you a little bit about me. I joined the Marine Corps back in the 90s. Something in me, I saw first time I saw the Marines was back in South America, where I'm from. And I just said, hey, I want to be like one of those guys. I want to wear that uniform. So next thing I knew, I was in high school when I saw the recruiter standing right there by the cafeteria. And I say, hey, how can it be one of those guys wearing one of them cool uniforms like you? And he says, well, come on down to the office let's make this happen. And that's pretty much what I did. And then went to boot camp. As a matter of fact, I was one of those guys that had the crazy idea to join in the buddy program. And as a matter of fact, we'll be talking to that buddy of mine who we went together on the buddy program to boot camp, and he'll be on the show as a matter of fact. But yeah, I highly recommend don't ever don't ever do that because you will pay for it dearly. Because I remember the drill instructor would be like, "Hey, let me get my two buddies down in the quarter deck. We're gonna go ahead and get some," and we pretty much got thrashed for it. So wherever he went, I went. So we were like the Wonder Twins of the quarter deck and the pits as well. So it was a great time. And then from there, well, I was a motor team mechanic. What is a motor team mechanic for the other, armed services? We're pretty much, any diesel equipment, rolling stock on two wheels. That's what we worked on. So I turned wrenches for quite some time, and I loved it. It was one of the best things, and that it taught me a lot of great things. Talking about, I had no clue what a mechanic was. As a matter of fact, I have a huge passion for motorcycles, and I was under the impression, well, Moto T, I'm sure they have motorcycles. And, the recruiter was like, yeah, we got motorcycles. It's great. I was like, well, I want to learn how to work on those. And, he sold me on it. The next thing I know, when I get to my first unit, as a matter of fact, they were phasing out the motorcycles, the Hondas, the 250s. So that's pretty much what my mechanic career as a motorcycle mechanic, that's pretty much where it ended. But nonetheless, it was great. Got to learn a lot about other type of vehicle platforms, and made my way through the ranks just like anybody else. I think is one of the greatest things and decisions that any young person should do. Yeah, it defined me and shaped me into the individual that I am today. And somewhere along the way, I was mentored by some great individuals, some great staff NCOs as well as officers. And I kind of was attracted to the warrant officers. Who are these individuals? Who are these mythical creatures, as we all like to know, as we all know them in the Marine Corps? Who is this guy that he can pretty much tell a lieutenant to just go away, make him disappear, and captains, majors, and give them a lot of respect, and colonels really, really appreciate their wealth of knowledge, and as well as just the type of person that these people bring to and character that they bring to the table. So because of that, early in my Marine Corps career, I said, "Oh man, I really want to be that individual. I want to be that type of person." So I was lucky enough that along the way I was mentored, by some great folks back in the day, and I finally decided to, you know what, I'm gonna join the, I'm gonna, make the warrant officer ranks something to strive for, and that's what I did. So it was one of the most difficult because the Marine Corps has the lowest or smallest warrant officer or chief warrant officer pool out of all the services, unlike the Army, which has, what's one of the biggest. And as a matter of fact, they do the most lobbying in regards, and they have a lot of impact across the other armed forces. The Marine Corps is a really hard program to get into. As a matter of fact, I was going for the MESET program, which is another officer program that the Marine Corps has available to enlisted folks that, if you want to get transitioned from the enlisted ranks onto an officer, I highly recommend that look at your career options as to, whether you want to be a warrant officer or whether you want to be on an unrestricted officer. And what I mean by that, lieutenant, captain, so on and so forth, all the way to general. Look at your options and make something of your career that, if that's what you're attracted to, go ahead and go for it. And I just want to throw a mad shout out to the 3,500 warrant officer field. Get some because that's what I ended up going for. So, but nonetheless, um, and I kept applying for the program, and obviously, your first time, depending on the field, in my field of motor T, there was a lot of competition. I mean, a lot of good competition, and our group is not, it's not, our field is not that big. So uh, I can't, the first time I got denied. Excuse me. Second time, as well. By the third time, I was just like, okay, what's going on here? I thought I had a pretty solid package. I did all my, not only my MOS, my military occupational skill designated type of things that you have to do every year, and so on and so forth. I had the schooling. I had the, all those things above and beyond the call of duty for your field, that I thought I had a strong package. So I happen to be on INI duty, and all that is basically your permanent personnel at a reserve duty station. I believe the Army calls it AGR. So, by that fourth year, I was just pretty much I was looking at being a recruiter, which, by the way, is another great, drones. Not taking away anything from drone instructors, because God bless them for what they do, but I had already re-enlisted with the option of going to on the as a recruiter. And as a matter of fact, one of the guests is going to be Master Sergeant Gino Osorio, who's still out in the trenches, being a, bringing in more folks and giving them a career option into Marine Corps. He'll be a guest in our show as well, so stand by for that one. That's going to be a real good one. Him and I were recruiters out on the field. So, but I pretty much had already my career set that, hey, I'm going to be a recruiter. I'm going to preach the good word about the Marine Corps, and from there, come back to the fleet and do something else, and probably be a sergeant major or something like that. So I have pretty much given up on my dream on the whole warrant officer thing. But it took a phone call from a friend that was happened to be in Afghanistan at the time, or Iraq, doing some awesome work. And I ended up, initially I had worked for him as an enlisted person, and he became a warrant officer, and he was a chief warrant officer 3 at the time. And this dude, he calls my the executive officer at the IN at the reserve duty station, and where I happened to be working. Because I pretty much told him on the phone, I'm like, no, no, sir. I wasn't calling him by first name. I'm like, no, sir, I'm pretty much giving up on that. I'm not going to put in for this year. Well, this dude calls my executive officer, and then next thing I know, I'm ordered to put a package together. In the 1 year where I half-assed the package on purpose because I pretty much was so upset about the other 4 times, um, that's the year I got selected. As a matter of fact, I was in recruiting duty at the time. I mean, at the recruiting school in San Diego in MCRD, and I kept getting phone calls from the headquarters, because for the reserve units, the main headquarters was down in New Orleans. So they went ahead and hey, we need this, we need these other items, and I was like, and I realized I'm like, well, goddamn, I should have half-assed my package from the from the beginning, and that way, maybe I would have gotten selected. So, anyways, I ended up getting selected, and it was one of the greatest things that I'm, aside from being a father, uh, one of the greatest achievements that I think I've done, and in my career in the Marine Corps. So, a lot of great things, and I ended up after that, got to be in many different places. And got to be, as a matter of fact, in Japan during the earthquake tsunami. That was a pretty intense. That was a pretty intense, experience right there. If you've never seen streets do a wave as you're running onto a basketball court together, because you think the world's coming apart. Yeah, that was quite intense, and we'll talk about that some other time. But it was pretty intense. Nonetheless, my last stint was in 2014. I happened to be, a lot of things because of the many deployments and the things that I did, and some of us carry some of the things on our backs, and maybe our scars are not physical. Some of us carry our scars up here. It just had a combination of things that ended up just really overwhelming. That at a point I hit a low point on my life, and I could have ended up being, and I was really pondering a lot of things, having a lot of dark thoughts, and a lot of things that it wasn't until a friend, as a matter of fact, the same individual that called my XO to order me to put a package together. This individual as it was the one that, for whatever reason, that day it was just a bad day, culminating with a lot of things that have been, was happening in my life at the time, that I just, I was pretty much saying goodbye to him, because I was pretty much tired of everything, the way I was feeling, all these thoughts, and among many other things, that for some reason I just made a phone call. And I remember I was pretty much saying goodbye to him, and it was for him to say, hey, just hold off for just a second. And he was talking to me on the cell phone, and this dude made it to my office in less than 10 minutes. And luckily he intervened, and I ended up getting the help that I did, and here I am today. So because of that, and I ended up transitioning out of the service. I retired, but I was able to get the help and the tools to basically be here today and share my story with you all. So, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to the folks at, not only at Citrate Radio, Brian Colburn, but also the folks down at Warrior Built, because that's where I met Aaron Siebert, who will be my guest next week. So be sure to tune in for that one, because I appeared in a couple of his podcasts, just talking about the resources that are available for transitioning veterans, and who may be looking into a different type of job from what they were doing in the Marine Corps, or even as a veteran out here in the private sector. So I happened to be a guest on his show, and after a couple of times of being on there, I was like, man, you know what? This is not a bad gig and not a bad thing to do. So I pitched it to him. I said, hey, dude, why don't we do a show where we just come together? Like, you went to the field, and you, as a corpsman, and this and that. And what did you do during downtime? Like, oh, well, we just sat around and talk shit. We just told sea stories. We told great feats, or how basically you didn't get busted, or things like that, or things that happened to us while on duty. Speaking of duty, wouldn't it be a great thing to get a hand, if you really want to get to know the Marine Corps and what happens at the barracks, just pull up one of those duty logbooks, or start reading the officer of the day logbook that he has down at the battalion office. I mean, right there you have a romance. It's basically a combination of a romance novel, Jason Bourne, FBI, and probably where Jimmy Hoffa is buried, all in one. Because I mean, you could just find out some really good stories, and basically how that unit is, just by reading the duty logbook or the barracks duty logbook. So, things like that, I was thinking like, man, all these things would be, great stories. It's just something to hear from people, not only from the Marine Corps, but from other armed forces, as to, hey, dude, tell me something, that happened while you were in the service. So from those things, that's kind of, I guess you could say, um, those were the incipient stages of me putting this podcast together. So, and that's where it came. And along the way, also, I was like, well, I also, because when I was getting out, no matter how hard, for the information that I was looking for, after, and I attended, all those seminars like Tamp and Tap, how to transition out of the Marine Corps after being there 25 years, all these things that are offered as resources as we're getting out of the service. I found myself that, I'm getting all this information, but just like anything, just like any school in the military, there, it's just that big old fire hose effect. In other words, hey, put your mouth on this thing. We're gonna open this thing all the way open, and good luck after you take all these classes. Your next venture, because I mean, for all intents and purposes, we all know that that green machine is going to keep doing it what it's doing. People are going to keep joining. People are going to keep doing their thing. But as we transition out, it's like there's a lot of things that come with it. So I was finding myself, I was like, man, well, how do I do this? Oh, yeah, well, yes, I do know how to, I learned how to write a resume, but come to find out, well, hey, this template is old. Nobody uses this version of this, of this resume, or no, this is not how you do conduct an interview. That was like, last year or 2 years ago, or whatever. All these little things, as well as benefits that, oh, well, you got to do this and not that. Well, you should say this when you go into your visits and such. But nonetheless, you know, I wanted to put this podcast together to also be a venue to pass on information, connect one veteran with another, or with resources that are out there to better educate and also for empower those individuals to make them think about, hey, you know what, I do deserve to get benefits from the Veterans Administration. Because one thing that I have noticed, after being out for quite some time and helping through other organizations, veterans, on how to write resumes, or talk about benefits, you know we're very humble, and God bless us all for being humble. But at times, that humbleness also, we shut the door on benefits and things that you rate, or we rate, because we think we don't deserve it. I do have a close friend of mine who says, oh, well, you know what, those benefits from the VA, and that those monies should be for you guys, because you guys did 20 years, or you guys deployed. And that is not the case, my friend. So if you're one of those individuals that is listening to this podcast, and you're thinking that way, I really do appreciate what your thought process. But in retrospect, you earned those benefits yourself. So I highly encourage you, and hopefully that by you listening to this podcast, and some of the great guests that I'm going to be bringing on, who one of them, as a matter of fact, is a retired certified veterans service officer. In other words, this person worked for the VA, putting claims together and helping vets get paid. Hopefully that you out there will realize that, hey, you know what, I do rate these things, because unfortunately we all, some of us may live forever, but I know that as I've gotten older, a lot of things that with my joints and things like that, I've gone kind of sideways because of the things that we did in the service, because we're all gung ho and motivated. So you want to be able to the VA, and you get treated for those things, and you're covered by it, so it doesn't come out of your pocket. So hopefully, by you listening to the show, because of the awesome guests that that are going to be on here, you yourself will go out there and seek the help that you need, or the benefits, or or the treatment. Yeah, because if you're going through something through, and nothing else must sucks more than going through life, especially in pain. And I know a lot of us, physical pain. I mean, I know a lot of us out here. carrying loads, backpacks, 80 pounds, hiking or humping, as we used to call it in the Marine Corps, 15, 12 miles, carrying cruiser weapons and all that good stuff. Yeah, sounds all great when we're young, but once you're that individual who's no longer being that dog, running after the trucks and the cars and everything, but you're that old dog laying, sitting and just hanging out on the porch with all your aches and pains. uh, you want to be, at least you want to be get the treatment and the help that you need for that, and hopefully this podcast will be um, that venue. So, you know because in all honesty, as I found myself, I was that individual. I was like, at first, well, you know what, I'm just not gonna get seen, it's a pain in the butt, yeah, so on and so forth. But somebody grabbed me by the swivel and say, hey, no, dude, don't don't shut the door on those benefits, because as you get older, you'll see that you want all that stuff to be tied back to when you were back in the service. So I'm glad I did, and because of that, all the things that I have gone wrong, as far as the surgeries and all these other things, I've been able to get treated and seen for it. So this podcast will be, that this hopefully this will be that venue where we'll talk about some really funny, cool stuff. That the guests and any stories that these guests will as part of their personal experience from the service. But also, we'll also talk about some serious stuff. We'll talk about things that affect us. Uh, from anything, we're going to talk about from mental health. One of my guests, she's a doctor, she's a psychologist, great person, and we'll talk about not only in regards to mental health, PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, how all these things impact us, but we'll also talk about sexual trauma, because some of us, there are persons out there who also, uh, have not come out to say, hey, this happened to me while in the service, and have not gotten the help that they deserve, and they so dire in need in a dire in a dire emergency, because a lot of those things that affect us, and some of us even bring trauma from even the service, and now you find yourself in the service, you're probably in a combat zone or in a traumatic situation, so you may have double triple trauma, and all those things along the way, that load gets really really heavy at times. So what does that mean? Well, you know, over the last 3 years, actually over the last 4 years, I've lost over 13 friends due to suicide. You know, and that is just that is uncalled for. A lot of times it's like, man, I was just talking to this individual last week. What else could I have done? What other things? So hopefully that this venue that I'm in this great technology that we have nowadays. Hopefully that if one individual is listening out there and they get the message and say, you know what, I can relate to what he's going through or what he went through, because we're gonna grow together in this show and get to know one another. Yes, I wish I could tell you everything about me all in this one show, but that would be a really, really long show, by the way. But as we go along and we grow together, you're gonna get to know about me, and and hopefully that person that I was just talking about, they'll say, hey, you know what? I can relate to his story. I'm glad that he got the help. Maybe I should go get the help and talk to somebody. By all means, feel free, if you want, if you want to reach out, you can, on this venue right here, you can also send me a private message. I'll be more than glad to go ahead and talk to you after the show, try to help you, connect you with the right people, and get you the help that you rightly so need and deserve. I want to be that individual out here for us veterans. So please, don't, because I just don't want, I don't want us to be, while it's great, and I see a lot of my fellow veterans as well as service members, posting on Facebook and all the social media about, doing the whole 22 push-ups for the, 22 people that commit suicide, or service members that commit suicide every day. That's great. But how about this? How about reaching out to somebody or doing a buddy check on somebody at the barracks, and not just not just from a staff NCO officer whatever standpoint. You know that just you just say, hey man, how are you doing today? What are you going through anything? Is there anything that we need to talk about? I remember way back when I was in, was that going getting help, mental help, or talking to somebody, or going to talk to the wizard, like someone was like to like to call it, was a stigma. We just didn't do it. Who's going mental health, you're weak, you're a sick bay commando, what kind of individual are you? But I think we're in a great time right now where we are we're more open to understand to understanding these things, and how you know PTSD, trauma, and all these things affect us, and how individuals, because we're all different and we have different perspectives. And what's different to me might be different to somebody else. And my great friend, Aaron Chief Siebert, I think he put it best, because I participate in PTSD groups. I go there not only to share my story, but also to see if I could help somebody else. So one of the ways that he put it in regards to perception is that we could both be sitting on a foxhole, on a fighting hole, and everybody's got their own lateral limits. In other words, for those of you who, if there's somebody here listening that may not be in the service, what does that mean? Is that, hey, you got two individuals in this place, and this individual can only see. This is his area that he can see. He or she can see, and they can't see on the other side, because the individual next to you, that's what they're guarding. So to me, I'm seeing, oh my God, the whole world is falling apart. I got rounds coming towards me. Basically a broken arrow is basically we're being overran, and it's just all these things. Meanwhile, that individual next to me, their perception is totally different. They're seeing rainbows, they're seeing beautiful birds singing, all that stuff. So we're all different, so we process things differently. So what may not be traumatic to somebody else, it's going to be traumatic to that other person. So hopefully this show, and again connecting people to one another, somebody listening, "Hey, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and reach out to that individual that Pacho had on the show the other day, or I'm going to contact Pacho and see, hey, how can we, let's talk about Venovitz, or hey, how can I go get seen for my PTSD is out of control, where can I go?" There's a lot of resources, a lot of great resources out there. You could go to ptsdusa.org. That's a great venue right there. As a matter of fact, if you go on their website, if they'll do an evaluation, and depending how much PTSD has taken over your life, they'll bring you to Camp Hope down in Texas, all expenses paid. And the only catch that is that, hey, you got to go through the process, you got to go through the classes, do the work. I can tell you from firsthand experience that if you don't do the work, um, you're basically you're not doing yourself the justice. You just and you're not facing. And if you don't face, you face the Marine Corps, you face that your service career head on, but you need to face your demons as well, and that's part of the process. It's part of growth. And to be, not to be cliche, but after some time, uh, things will get better, and they do get better. And next thing you know, you find yourself on the other side of that hurdle, saying, "Wow!" Look back and you're like, "Shit, I got through that." So, but as we get closer, folks, and as we grow along together, we're gonna learn a lot, and this is gonna be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to share my story, talking to the guests. If you like what you heard today, I highly encourage you to like, share, subscribe. Also, go on all your different platforms such as Sitch Radio, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, all those great venues, and download our show. And at some time, we'll see you around. All right, everybody. So I think it's a great point to call it index. With that being said, I am out of here, folks. Ara, get some.